Okay, and we're all set up for Streets of Rage 2 with Anthopants, so everyone get ready, give them a hand, and get ready for that great music. Woo!
So, hey, how's it going? I am Anthopants. I'm going to be playing Streets of Rage 2 on Mania. It's its top difficulty. Then I start. Oops, I totally messed it up, but it's okay.
It's all good. That gives us time for a roll call. I am Mike Uyama.
I'm Dagrin.
I'm Murphigator, and this is El Rock.
And now it is on Mania.
Yeah. And I start with 1 life. I don't really know why I do it. It just...
Don't panic. He will make it through this.
Yeah.
So time starts when I gain access to my players, so I'm just going to try and count it down as best I can. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
So immediately off the start, you see him use a Thunder Tackle with Max. The Thunder Tackle is his fastest form of movement. The only thing is that it burns through his own health bar. There are 2 specials in the game. There's the forward special, which he just used, which is a Thunder Tackle, and you also saw him do like a move where he spins around. That's kind of like a Super Joy, and like that you'd use in other beat 'em ups, which has a lot of invincibility. And because you're Max, it also does a ton of damage. The reason why he's using Max is because Max is the best character in the game. There is a bit of debate between Max and Axel, but it's generally agreed among like the highest level Streets of Rage 2 players is that once you get a good grip in the game, Max is the best just because he outputs so much damage, and he has lots of good setups on the enemies and the bosses. He's also, ironically, the second most mobile character in the game because of his slide and the Thunder Tackle.
He's very mobile, moving left and right, but if you have to move on the depth axis, he does end up being quite slow, since the only way to move on the depth axis in this game is his default movement.
And the thing about this game is that it's very, very random, so you can never really play the same way twice. You can account for spawns and the like, and there are certain pixels that he'll want to be on so that he only spawns a certain amount of enemies. But for this stage, it doesn't really matter that much because it's just a lot of like filler, low-level enemies that aren't too hard to kill.
You also notice that when he got thrown, he actually didn't fall down to the ground and actually take any damage. There's a particular trick that you can do where you can actually just safely land on the ground even after being thrown.
Yeah, you just hold up and jump, and you're good.
Yeah, and that's a common mechanic in all 3 of the Streets of Rage games. It's don't know why they decided to do it, but it's a cool, unique thing about the series.
So signals are less like deadly, and they're more annoying because the throws cost you time, but they're not really going to hurt you.
So we're coming up to Jack here.
And if you're wondering why he isn't always using the Thunder Tackle when it's the most powerful move, again, it does cost him health, so sometimes he's finishing with the slide instead. And what you just saw there was the jumping backbreaker, which is one of Max's best moves. It's not the best damage, but it's the best DPS because it outputs the damage really fast, and it counts as a hit, so it can hit multiple enemies for the same damage as you hit the backbreakered enemy with, like you set up right there.
Yeah, it's really incredible for positioning too because all the enemies hit by it get knocked the same way. A lot of throws in this game, like you just saw there, they'll end up splitting the enemies up if you throw them because they knock enemies in opposite directions, but that doesn't have that problem.
Yeah, so one of the only flaws with Max is that unlike the other characters, he can't flip around them when he grabs them, so that's why he's specifically setting up back grabs because that's where all of Max's best throws are.
Oh, and you're going to be seeing a lot of Donovan uppercuts.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them.
Yeah, Streets of Rage 2 is kind of unique in beat 'em ups in that a lot of enemies have like a specific pre-programmed reaction to certain actions you take. So anytime you jump near a Donovan, they're probably going to try and uppercut you. And a lot of times you can beat that attack in various ways with a jump, but if your timing's off, it does mean you usually get hit by an uppercut.
Yeah, like one way is by neutral jumping. And you might be thinking, oh, he's using a lot of special, isn't that dangerous? Well, when you're swarmed like that on both sides, you really want to use a special because it's better for you to hit the enemies and take a little bit of damage than the enemies hitting you, which will probably be more damaging to yourself than just using the special, and you're not getting any damage on the enemies.
Max's special also just generally does pretty good damage.
Oh yeah, it's really powerful. Like the game has a rating system, and you know Max has power, but his special is only 2. But it's really like, I would give it, you know, the 3 stars because he has just really good specials overall.
Yeah. Well, he also has max stamina, which isn't a stat that actually does anything.
Oh, yeah, that's
so.
true. So what he's doing is technically not an infinite, but this Electra's attack animation is so slow that if he pauses the last hit of his combo, he can just loop back into the first hits of his combo, and then start a loop like that. If he mistimes it, he'll do an overhead swing, which you really don't want to see as Max because it's very slow, and that's why he's always sliding or tackling to end his combos.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll see him turn around and do the back kick as the ender too,
Yeah.
which is another good move for it.
Yeah, and what you're noticing is that he's always tackling into Barbin, because what he's trying to do is he's trying to set up Barbin blocking, which will hit him multiple times during a tackle.
Yeah, bosses have a property where when they block a move, they'll take a smaller amount of damage still. For some reason, normal enemies don't take it. So, like blocking normal enemies, you can't do this to. But on the enemies or on the bosses that can block, which Barbin doesn't want to do today.
Yeah. It's fine because this tackle still does good damage.
There we go.
Yep. Nice work. And I mean, I want to say we've been kind of not talking about the specific gameplay, but what he's doing, the way he's approaching this in Mania is absolutely crazy. Like all of the enemies outspeed you. They're super aggressive.
Yeah.
Like going and just aggroing all these enemies is like the polar opposite of how most people play Mania. Like most people, when you're trying to play Mania, in order to contain all of the stuff that's just happening, you really have to like wait and get like a couple guys at most on screen.
Yeah.
And
He does that a couple of times for the bosses, but like overall he just plays very aggressively and handles it very well.
Yeah, and there you can see Donovan started trying to uppercut him, but he got hit before the uppercut hit. So that's how you can kind of use theirs.
So what he did there is that if you're deep enough inside an enemy sprite, you can hit them, then turn around, and you'll get a back turn throw on them, which sets up back breakers or suplexes. Nice. So bikers, they're not too dangerous now, but later in the game, they're one of the most low-key dangerous enemies in the game. They don't do a lot of damage, but they have a very fast punch that knocks you down.
They can also put you in a full Nelson, and that is a good way to get set into a lot of damage.
Yeah. So like specialing bikers is a legitimate strategy just because it's very hard to predict their movement.
They also tend to not have very much health, so a lot of bikers will die to just a single special attack.
Especially the ones on the bikes.
Let's see if I got it. Okay, I got it. I just despawned 2 bikers
Nice.
that normally jump off the bike.
Yeah, so the reason why he's not picking up the pipe, it's actually a very good weapon. Oh, never mind.
I just did that to mess with you, sorry.
I respect it.
That actually set up the health pretty well there,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pipe is really good for Max. It's just that it doesn't do a lot of damage. It knocks enemies down. So it's not like the best DPS. And he got hit in purpose there so he could set up that grab. And what he did was the headlock, which is actually the most damaging move in the game, but it's not used too often for 2 reasons. If there's multiple enemies, they can hit you out of it. You have no invulnerability during the headlock, unlike most grab moves. And that even though it's the most damaging move, it takes a while for the damage to come out.
Nice.
So it's a good way to finish an enemy if you don't want them to get knocked down again.
Yeah. So there's a hidden one up here, and on that last screen, you did the special attack out of the screen. It's a little, kind of a tiny little time saver, but considering you gain a fractional amount of health on every screen transition anyway, it's just kind of a free little time saver.
You might be going, oh, a 1-up for safety, what is this? Well, Mania is very, very difficult, and, you know, the later stages can really blow through a lot of lives.
Yeah, this is the calm part of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
This is just easy street right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
We're just no big deal.
Do we have time for a quick donation?
Sure.
Sure.
Cool. We have a $500 donation from Chad Saran who says, "You've got this, Anthopants. Remember to get on their level and hit the guy."
Yep, hit the guy. Thanks, Chad.
Yeah, we're going to be coming up on the boss here, so...
He's going to want to it's hard to tell because of the way the background shifts, but basically he's going to want to basically get to a certain line and then go back immediately, so he only spawns one jet. And he got it.
And,
Okay,
well,
good.
it spawned Donovans in this fight, the multiple jet things later. All right, so here he's manipulating Jet to do this punch attack so that he can backbreaker him, which is just so wrong.
Because normally when you hit him out of the air, you know, you can't follow up with hits, but if you do it correctly, nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, getting grabs on Jet is such a cool strat.
Yeah.
it's
And
a very problematic enemy.
Yeah, and it's not as easy as it looks.
Well, yeah, because if you mistime that, if you're like a little too early, so you land before Jet lands, then he just throws you instead. So there's not a very big window to hit it. Now our Streets of Rage fight takes us to the amusement park, I guess. The locations in this game are pretty wild.
Yeah. And so is the music, but that's why it's one of the best soundtracks on the Genesis, if not the best.
Yeah, it's... So yeah, these transitions take a set amount of time. It doesn't matter where you're at on screen for a lot of them, so you can just jump back off screen, and the boundaries are unlocked because it expects a transition.
He also wants to get rid of these arcade machines. They actually lag this screen a fair decent amount in the console.
So what walls are really good for are setting up back turn moves, like backbreakers and the like. I mean, it always depends on RNG and what the enemies are doing, but
Nice.
that's a nice setup.
Yeah, so signals have a very specific AI quirk where they won't really attack you if your back is facing them.
Yeah, they'll
So-
only throw you.
Yeah, so getting that whole group, they'll try and approach and throw, but then you do a back jump and kick all 4 of them into the corner.
That was a very good screen.
Yeah.
Another thing you might notice is anytime that that he does the knee drop, a lot of times he'll try and like do something random and just nonsense right after it that doesn't like attack anyone specifically or anything. This game has some issues where certain moves kind of store part of the animation. So doing just some empty action like jumping or just throwing a punch helps unload that action so that you don't, because what ends up happening is like the next time that you hit a button or try and do something, it'll just kind of delay for a few frames, and that can be really problematic when you're trying to do tight timing stuff.
And you notice that he was holding on to the enemy there. What he's trying to do is just set up grouping, either to set up backbreakers or in that case to set up a throw so he could also hit the karate guy, and so he could set up a knockdown at him and then get a potential backbreaker, another damaging move on him.
So here's where we're going to be introduced to one of the most annoying enemies in the game, the ninja.
Yeah. However, like most of the enemies in this game, there is an AI quirk to the ninja. If you are far enough away and the ninja is not holding a weapon, he will it will jump towards you at a fixed distance, and if you have good positioning, Max can just jump in and you can set up a backbreaker with them.
Yeah, which is especially interesting because normally the ninjas, if you jump at them, teleport away from you. So, kind of a cute little quirk.
And Anthopants is kind of crazy and fighting both ninjas at once for whatever reason. But he's doing a pretty good job so far. If the ninjas are close enough to you, they will do that jumping shuriken, and there's not really much you can do to avoid it other than do the special, and that was really nicely handled.
Yeah.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't have done that.
Probably.
Probably, but it's Anthopants.
But here we
he just
are.
does what he wants.
Just got to roll with it.
Yeah. I remember Anthopants was telling me, he was doing all these crazy strats when I first saw him practicing and I first met him. And he's like, I won't do, this stuff during the marathon. Of course, one was fighting both of those ninjas at once.
Sometimes you just got to feel it out.
Yeah,
All right, so
exactly.
this fight is a problem.
Yeah.
This like composition of enemies in particular I find really interesting because just these two Electras tend to kind of try and find space, while Vino here likes to get right up in there and try and cut you, or sometimes they'll throw the knife at you if you're far enough away, but
Like that.
yeah, like
Fortunately, the knife isn't too much damage.
yeah,
So it's the most dangerous part is just getting zoned out a lot and chipped away rather than like one big hit.
Yeah.
And what's nice about the refights on most mid-bosses is that they lose their invulnerability periods as they get up, so he can set up backbreakers and the like really easily.
Yeah, and that's true. Like even sub bosses, like Bino was in stage 1, and the sub boss version of him, you had to stall a bit, whereas this one you can just kind of do whatever. So we're here, this alien lair.
Yeah. Because
I-
Aliens was a popular movie at the time, and H.R. Geiger, why not?
Yeah, but this section does have one of the more obnoxious enemies in the game. It's not like terribly difficult for a speedrun, but he can be a big problem for a lot of casual players.
So as you notice, the katana is very, very, very good. The katana and pipe have both similar swing animations, but the katana does way more damage than
That's a good loop.
That's a good move.
Well played.
So one kind of quirk there, when Max grabs an enemy, he has to drop whatever weapons he's holding. And the way weapons work in this game is you get to drop them 3 times, I think. And then if you drop him a 4th time, it'll vanish. So he has to make sure he doesn't lose track of his sword too many times or else he won't have it. Which, for this section, isn't a death trap or anything, but it is. He still wants it.
Also, there's a hidden one up coming up here. And this guy's got a really interesting hitbox.
Yeah, you basically
So
have to hit the middle of his face.
Yeah, and he just kind of drives around, and if he runs into you, he does damage.
And the reason why he's using the back of the sword is because it hits higher. And also hits faster, because that's like
Because
the very
that's how you
first
swing a
frame.
sword,
Yep.
is you
Yep.
just reach way behind your head and stick it
in
out
one
there.
frame, yeah. You play just special
But-
it.
Yeah, there's that hidden one up. Nice.
Nice. That was a pretty good fight, all things considered. It's a very random fight.
Yeah.
Getting that ninja is pretty
Yeah.
key.
So here you're seeing the jump manipulation that Mike was talking about earlier. And
Wants to
momentary-
kill these ninjas here
Yeah,
before the
so-
boss.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you
and
might be like, oh, why don't you spawn the boss with the ninjas? Well, that would really just slow things down in general, just because you'd have to fight 3 enemies at once, and it's a lot easier to handle if you only have this one guy to deal with and just manipulate him like that. So
Yeah.
if you just jump and he's close to you like that, if you're at a certain positioning, which the backbreaker and the suplex sets up perfectly, he'll just constantly jump at you, it'll whiff, and you just get back throws and he dies.
yeah,
Quality attack there.
yeah, yeah. A lot of the a lot of the jumping anti-air moves that enemies have really deceptively bad hitboxes against
Yeah.
the player when you're jumping. Don't know why.
And
That's why I didn't hit you.
Oh, wow. Sure, why not?
Excuse me?
Yeah. And that's why he wanted to take care of the ninjas beforehand, because if he didn't, then he wouldn't have been able to set that up, and he would have just had a net loss in time.
Okay, well, it's important to remember to do baseball.
Yeah, exactly. No, you mean do baseball.
Yes, do baseball. So yeah, pretty good swarm of mostly the same enemies we've been seeing for a while.
We'll
gonna
see a
s-
few.
Yeah, we're gonna start seeing a lot more variety here in this stage.
Yeah,
They kind of realize that
Yeah.
we've seen these guys.
The game
It's
starts
like
to
Boo.
Yeah, the game starts to ramp up a little in stage 4, but it's not really until I would say stages 5, 6, and 7 where the game and 8 where the game ramps up.
Yeah.
It's definitely the second half of the game that's the harder half. But I think now would actually be a pretty good time for some donations because there's not really a lot to talk about.
I will real quick point out that he has reached 9 lives here. So we started with 1 and we've been having a pretty steady net gain.
Yeah.
This is going really well.
And with that, we'll transition into the first one I have to read here, $25 from Dadius. Good, hey GDQ, donating during my favorite beat 'em up of all time, Streets of Rage 2. Excited to see it beaten in Mania at a GDQ, which is something I couldn't do as a child with 9 lives. Donation goes to Runner's Choice.
Most adults can't do it with 9 lives, so I wouldn't feel bad about that.
We also have $10 from Gordo Diamond, who says, "Go Anthopants, you're the best. Don't forget to grab the guy."
Oh, grab the guys.
Nice. So if there's a lot of enemies, that's when he elects to do the Thunder Tackle, because that's definitely worth the life sacrifice for the raw damage that you get and positioning.
It also depends just a little bit on where there's health coming up, because
That's
there
true.
are quite a few health drops in this baseball field.
Yeah. You can read off some donations now. There's not a lot to talk about in this baseball field.
All right, we also have $10 from Bungee to the Tree. Hello from the front row, Anthopants. Good luck on this amazing run. We also have $50 from the Gecko that says, a Streets of Rage 2 run? Crank up the volume.
I agree. Shouts to Yuzo Koshiro.
Yeah, great soundtrack.
And $50 from Nick Manesh, who says, so great to see someone using their bare knuckles to take on Streets of Rage 2. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, Bare Knuckles, the Japanese name of the game.
So coming up are the fat guys.
Bongo.
And what he's going to try to do is he's going to try to group them together and then try to get the same punch loop he had on the Electra in the bar, because they have a very slow attack animation.
Not quite as slow as Electra, though, so it is a more difficult loop than it was there.
Also, for some reason, you can actually throw these guys and not take damage.
Because that's a bad mechanic.
It is a really bad mechanic.
I mean,
Yeah.
granted,
It made sense in Streets of Rage 1 where he was a boss, and not so
Yeah.
much
Not
in the
so
other
much
game where
here,
that
yeah.
happens.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, in Streets of Rage 1 and 2, if you try to...
1 and 3.
1 and 3. If you try to grab a fat guy and throw them, then you will just struggle and take damage.
Well, it depends a little bit on the throw, because like strike throws work, but
Oh, yeah, that's true.
but like if you try and throw him over your shoulder, it's bad times.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the first of the elevators we're going to deal with.
Yeah. And this is a pretty tough elevator, and this is where the game starts to pick up a little. And so he has to watch out for the Yamato jump kicks, but he just went behind him and set up a nice little loop right there.
Yeah, fortunately you got 2 walls to work with, which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
Even the other elevator, you don't have 2 walls, you just have the one.
Yeah. And you might be wondering, you know, backbreaking's so powerful, why isn't he always doing it when they're up against the wall? Well, if he has multiple enemies there, and if he just wants to lock them down, it's just better for him to use a combo instead of a backbreaker, because that'll guarantee that all the enemies stay there. You see that Donovan just slipped out of that backbreaker.
he was intentionally delaying there.
Yeah.
So you can
That's a
group up.
pretty common tactic, just to set up better backbreaker damage for groups.
Yeah, that's the elevator is a pretty common place
Yeah.
for the first death to happen. So
Yeah. He
Just-
still has 9 lives though, so he's good.
Yep.
Yeah, so the game, you can get more than 9 lives, but it doesn't display past 9 lives.
yeah, I think if he score caps and gets all the secrets, he ends up with 16 total over the course
Correct.
of the game. Just jump out there, it's
Yeah.
fine.
And generally in Mania, you do cap the score if you earn 1 credit and you beat the game.
Yep. So now we're gonna fight Abadede, and I'm curious which strat he's gonna use, because there's like 10 different strats for this guy that are all cool. Oh. So yeah, Max is a little bit better at wrestling than Abadede.
Yeah. So the problem is that if you get an enemy off screen like this, you can't follow up with grabs. So he's trying to get him centered on the screen, and Abadede is not cooperating. The thing is, while this guy's AI is fairly predictable, he does a ton of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't set up your grabs on him, then he wins the priority. So, very nice work.
Perfect. That was a perfect fight.
Nothing bad happened at
The
all.
perfectest fight.
Yeah, Abadede, when he gets loose, he's a wild man.
Yeah,
Especially in Mania, like that lariat, you can see he clears the
Yeah.
whole screen in like a tenth of a second.
Yeah, and it takes off like 1/3 of your health. It's a lot.
Yeah. So, not quite yet. Sorry. So anyway, now that we've escaped the underground baseball field, we're on a boat. That's a very natural transition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so.
We don't even get a map screen like old Max.
Yeah, how do we even know where we are? But got another Bongo here. He's on his own, but he has a lot of health.
Yeah.
And that's Bongos in particular. Just they really went overboard with their health on
Yeah.
Mania. They take a lot.
And shouts to Fist of the North Star.
Yeah,
the name
Heart.
Heart.
Mr. Heart.
Yeah, there's a theme with all the enemies in the game. Like the kickboxers who you're about to see pretty soon all have bird names like Raven, Condor, and the bikers have like weather effects like hail, storm, gale.
Yeah, it's also really interesting because like the enemy names are actually changed on Mania, so you see a lot of names that you wouldn't normally see. Like we were calling them Donovans, but they're named. I think the typical ones are named like Z on Mania.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's Gooden.
There's Gooden.
Gooden got his neck broken. Nice. All right, yeah, so we're gonna see the kickboxers right here.
Yeah.
The kickboxers are the first normal enemy who can block, but they can't block if like you're doing something right as they're standing up. So
Oh,
in
that
this
was good.
case, yeah, in this case, when they're spawning one at a time like this, you can kind of.
Yeah. And this is one of the few moments where he really only wants to bait out one at a time. And he took the hit on purpose so he could set up a grab on that kickboxer. And it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah, you really want control of kickboxers.
Exactly.
Their attacks, especially like if you try and actually fight with them, their kicks are just impossibly fast.
Yeah, and they can block just any of your moves, including the tackle. And like Murph said earlier, unlike the bosses, they take no chip damage.
So here, there's another the good beat 'em up staple of reusing bosses as just random mid bosses. In this case, again, he's Vulture, I think his name is here.
Wayne, yeah. Vulture's the last iteration.
All right.
So remember when we said walls are good?
And also when they can't.
Yeah, bosses normally have Invince on Get Up, so their second iteration doesn't.
Yeah. Loot.
Loops. All right, so this is another really exciting part on Mania. Another boss is going to come back here, so it's going to bring some, I think one friend here.
I was bring out the sword.
Yep. So he's going to be really careful with his positioning here because he only wants to bring out one jet at a time. If he brings out more, then it becomes a lot harder to handle.
Yep.
And there's the first one.
But
And-
fortunately, the sword's pretty good at this.
Yeah.
Oh, go for that.
Well, then I'm not going to use this sword.
He's too good for that sword.
Yeah, exactly. But that is actually on purpose because he specifically wants to drop the sword himself and not get knocked down, because if he gets knocked down by a jet, the sword can actually be knocked off screen, which really screws up the later parts of this level.
Yep.
So it's not just to troll us commentators.
As good of a reason as that is.
Yes.
Ooh, the double.
All right, never mind.
I'm just going for it, all right.
let's
There's
do
only
it.
one jet left, so that
Yeah,
part's at least.
yeah.
But he's going to have a few other enemies,
Yeah.
and they can kind of get in the way by, obviously by hitting him, but also just the fact that they're there means he has to be a little bit more careful with his positioning and where he swings the sword, because if he swings the sword and another enemy's there, it might hit them first, and the jet will keep going and punch him before it actually makes contact.
And the thing is, you have up to 3 pickups with the sword, which is why he didn't pick it up then, because if he got knocked down again, then he would have lost the sword. So
Is it 2 or is it 3? I thought you drop it 3 times.
yeah, you drop it 3 times.
Okay, so he's got, yeah.
So these guys are really annoying, which is kind of why he's zoning them out. He really doesn't want them to get close, because then that gives them a chance to punch him in the face. And that's the last thing you want from those guys.
Yeah, and also approaching some ninjas,
Yeah.
which really want to do the jump manipulation on these guys, because otherwise they just run wild.
And there's some more.
Yeah, there's some more. And so yeah, he's purposefully staying on the left here so he doesn't bait 2 ninjas at once. As you can see, that ninja has a sword, and you know how you do a lot of damage with the sword? So do ninjas. So yeah, you really don't want to get hit by those swords.
Yeah.
And even if they drop the sword, they can repick it back up, so
Yeah.
you have to be aware of that.
Which does count towards the drop count for the weapon too. So even the weapon he's holding, if he loses it and ninjas pick it up and drop it over again, then it can become a problem. And that becomes a really big issue in stage 7 sometimes.
Yeah. And that's why he specifically knocked the ninja farther back, so he would have no chance of picking up the sword.
Yep. So here he's gonna get rid of some of these Galcias, just clear out the stage before he gets to the boss. Because this boss is pretty notorious for, well, being a problem.
Yeah. There are loops you can do on him, but they're pretty hard to do with all the enemies that are around, and he'd rather keep the sword for the boss, so he'll be safer.
Yeah, the flame hitbox is a little less generous than it looks, or has a little more leeway than it looks, I guess. But so there, yeah, I think an enemy approached him from behind and slowed that swing down. So, so he's going to be fighting our bear the very exciting way.
Yeah.
With 2 bongos here to help out.
So, unfortunately, one of Max's weaknesses is that he has really poor Z-axis movement.
Ooh, this will be a good situation.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, he can loop this for his whole health bar if he. Oh.
That was close.
Nice.
Nice.
All right, the fat guys are gone.
Beautiful
Nice.
recovery.
Wow.
Beautiful recovery. And that's actually one of the fastest ways to beat him
Yeah,
too. So
yeah.
that worked out being faster than what I at least what I assume he was intending to do.
Yeah, yeah, which is zone him out with the sword.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely incredible. All right, so Beach has a ninja at the start here that's
And even though that ninja looked like he was doing a jumping punch, ninjas don't actually hit you on the way down. The same is true with Electras. It looks like they're doing a jump kick when they spawn.
they even make a noise.
Yeah, but yeah, they don't actually have a hitbox when they come down like that.
Yep, we'll have here's the orange ninja. This guy is really obnoxious before you make him drop his weapon. But obviously Anthro's not gonna let him do that.
Yeah, so this is the problem when you let ninjas out. They're really obnoxious. They can do a lot of damage to that backhand of theirs. So
That was good handling of him.
yeah, that was a good handling.
But unfortunately, that's going to put him in a little bit of an awkward spot for this next part coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, this pack
That
is
is,
pretty dangerous.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah,
this beach is a really common spot to die, because even if you don't die there, well, remember those kickboxers? There's 4 of them in the next area, and if you're not really careful with how you spawn them, you can end up fighting all 4 at once. And it's a very specific line that you have to kind of wiggle through, that you have to kind of go back and forth on to spawn them.
Yeah, a lot of
Be very
times when there's a force spawn, it's like literally a pixel difference between spawn. Okay, he's just
Okay,
going
yeah,
for
sure.
it. Oh man.
This could get out of control real quickly.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay, this is good.
That block.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Once Max gets at least 1 grab in here, he gains a lot better control.
Wow.
Like for as wild as that gets, once you get 1 grab, you can kind of jump around with grabs between one and then the other, and get a lot of damage in, while being safe due to lingering iframes from certain moves.
And one of the reasons why you didn't want to die there is because there's a health pickup right
Yeah,
there.
it's. So here we're going to use the trick with the signals that they don't like to attack you from behind. Group them up here. There's going to be 3 waves of 2, and then we'll move on.
This might be a good spot for donations.
I think I can do that. We have $50 from your sister Marjorie that says, "For a perfect fight, go Anthony."
Ah, thank you, Sister Margie.
We also have $50 from Kermis who says, "Good luck, Anthopants. Love to see the Mania run. Hit the guys."
Hit the guy.
And another 50 from Fochan who says, "Go Antho, get the guys."
Oh, thanks, Fochan.
So a bit like the Donovans, the karate guys can anti-air you, but it's not as powerful as the Donovan's uppercut. And easier to get around. And again, that's another delayed backbreaker, and that was a really good one.
Yeah. Good old Gourmand.
Yep.
Oh,
With Golba. Gotta love the names in this game.
yeah. Ooh, just
Oh,
a
that
little
was
tiny
close.
bit too early. But that, no. I don't know what it is about these two bongos, but they seem to desync themselves really easily.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
There we go.
Nice. So we didn't talk about this earlier, but when you do Max's combo, he just 2 chops, and he does that really big swing. Most enemies you can get 1 or 2 hits on depending on their positioning, but the fat guys, because their hurt boxes are so wide, you can get up to
4.
4, yeah. And 3 is very common.
Well, you can get 3 on a few enemies if you're standing like in them.
Yeah,
but,
true.
But 4 is pretty much exclusively for the very big enemies. So this fight's kind of nasty because he's got 2 of these whip ladies and then just tons and tons of bikers spawning with. They almost have no health. Even on Mania, you can see they've just got 1 hit worth of health typically.
Yeah. But the big danger is that they can just chip away at your health really badly because they can zone you out. The bikers can swoop in because, as we mentioned earlier, the enemies on Mania are very strange because they're both evasive and very aggressive.
Well, and it doesn't help that unlike higher health enemies, you can kind of knock them away and put them in a position where you know they're far enough away.
Yeah.
But since the bikers are just dying and coming again and dying and coming again, you can't get control of them.
So Antho is going to do a very specific setup. Oh, and he got it.
So this boss is intended to have some friends here, but
Yeah.
you don't really want to do that. But Souther you can do the same things to Souther that he did to Zamza, but Souther has a little bit more randomness. He can choose not to do the uppercut sometimes. So yeah, unlike Zamza, it's not guaranteed that he'll do this loop,
Yeah.
but he very typically does this loop.
And he's doing backbreakers instead of suplexes sometimes because he really, really wants to stay in the left of the screen. If he goes too far to the right, he would spawn the
saw
jets.
it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
saw
you can
for
see
like
one of the
split
jets.
second.
Yeah.
He typically is supposed to spawn with 4 jet guys.
Yep.
And it's absolute chaos,
Yeah.
that fight.
Yeah. That.
All right, 7. Easiest stage of the game.
Yeah. Easy.
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 There'll be some strats he's going
There's-
to use here.
Yeah. So intro's not too bad. There's some conveyors around, but they're not too important. Just some Donovans and a few Galcias.
Oops.
Well, that's what the apple's for, right?
Wow. They
Yep.
staggered that really badly.
Yeah.
A lot of lag.
Gotta draw all those sprites. Good old flame sprites. Yeah, they're just staggering in really inconvenient ways to set up.
Yeah. It doesn't help that the fat guys have a really long get-up animation. So it takes a while to set up throws with them. Okay, there you go. Nice. So there's
Nice.
not. Oh,
Okay,
there's
did
not a
that.
ton to explain in this part of stage 7. It's really going to be the elevator, so it's probably worth going over the characters. As we mentioned before, Max is the best character for his raw power and his mobility with the thunder tackle and the slide. Axel is generally considered
Grand
this-
Uppa.
Yeah, exactly. Grand Uppa and the second best because Grand Uppa is just a completely ridiculous move. It does a ton of damage. It has a lot of iframes, and it sets up into more Grand Uppers as long as they're not knocked off screen. So
Yeah.
he also has a jab infinite, which isn't necessarily the fastest way to kill enemies, but it's a very safe way to kill enemies. And he has a good vertical jump kick.
Pretty much everybody has a good vertical jump kick in this game.
True.
Except maybe Skate.
Yeah, it's generally a very good move, especially since it baits a lot of anti-airs and the like and does good damage, unlike a lot of beat-em-ups. Also,
that pipe on the ground is pretty important, assuming he's going to do what I think he's going to do with it.
I'm going to do that.
Okay. So he's going to throw it off the screen there, and that's to bait out this one ninja.
This ninja is way towards the end of the screen, too. This isn't...
Yeah. And we hope he does not throw Anthopants to the right, because that will end up getting him to spawn other mobs to go with that ninja.
Yeah, one bad ninja throw here and this screen turns into chaos.
Right. So he took care of that ninja, so that's good. And he'll take care of this whip girl as well. So now he should be able to handle, hopefully this ninja doesn't throw him to the right either.
Yeah, there's still a bit to go, but he's at least in a good situation.
Yeah. This section is all ninja and whip girls. So.
Yeah, and it's also kind of inconvenient because like it's a really nasty fight and there's a turkey there, but you can't start this whole fight and still have the turkey on screen. The conveyor belts move it too far to the left.
Very good situation here.
And the other thing is that the conveyor belts are really annoying because they can throw your positioning off for combos and the like. It's not as much of an issue for Max because he can slide and he's more about grabs, but it can still be an issue with positioning. Nice.
Gotta run some laps.
Yep.
I got greedy.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're coming up on the real chaos of this run.
The real last boss of Streets of Rage 2, the Stage 7 elevator.
Yeah, this is so all this time we've talked about like playing slow and spawning a few enemies at a time. You can't do that here.
Yeah.
It's not a choice.
You're on a single screen. And also, those two trash cans, those are the boss health trash cans because this is also where the boss spawns. Even though you have to go through, 4 waves of enemies beforehand?
I think it might be 5 if you include this wave.
Yeah, I think it is actually 5. And it's...
Each of which is a bigger jerk than the last wave.
Pretty much.
Which is saying something because the second wave is...
It's really horrible.
Yeah, it is awful.
Yeah, so...
Another interesting trait you saw there, Max's slide has 2 hits. One hit's like immediately, and if he hits an enemy with that part of the slide, he'll knock him down. And then like there's kind of a lingering attack as he's sliding, and that one will leave him standing. So a lot of times you can use that to set up throws.
Hey, remember jets?
Here's 2 of them.
Remember how we were trying to slow down their spawns and everything? Yeah, this is kind of why.
Ooh.
Now, he's very specifically in this corner for a reason. He's trying to bait everything over here because that does give him a chance to set up a better kill on the jets, but it's still really difficult to do.
Yeah, and if they just give weird patterns like this, then
it's like they're super desynced, so not a lot he could have done there.
You weren't okay.
What?
I'm not sure how he wasn't still invincible there.
No, yeah, the invince won't work for the throws, so you can still get hit.
One's down.
You can still
Good.
get grabbed.
Perfect.
Nice.
Oh, the other one's dead too. Okay, good.
Yeah, a couple of the jets don't have very much health, but it doesn't really matter how much health they have when you can't hit them.
So you might be like, was that the boss fight? And no, there's more.
And of course, we have to have one with a sword.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Which
that is not what you
protecting
want
that sword is kind of important here too.
Yeah.
He wants that for a screen coming up, and the ninjas are already.
you want to get rid of
that
those
should-
ninjas.
Okay. At
That
least he has the sword.
Yeah, that'll save a lot of grief. And he's gotten rid of the ninjas, so nobody's going to pick up the sword anymore except for him.
Yeah.
And you don't need them for these guys. They tried so hard.
They just wish they were Ryu.
They want you to walk into it, but no.
Yeah, so the button to pick up weapons in this game is the same button as attack. So like sometimes you can try to do an attack and you'll pick up a weapon instead.
And this is why he wants the sword.
Yeah, this is the only particularly consistent way to deal with the kickboxers on the elevator.
Also, sometimes these kickboxers will block the sword because,
Yeah, just
you know.
easy peasy. Just stick your knee up, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
That
One right
guy.
there.
Okay, he's got one more use on the sword. There you can see block thunder tackle, which is a problem.
And he's very specifically not picking up the sword because he was about to die right like that.
Now you can see that guy waiting there to throw grenades. It is kind of not a huge deal, but it is kind of important to make sure that you trigger them to start throwing grenades, because if you don't, then you have to trigger them after. And wait for him to do it.
By the way, as a side note, this is probably my favorite song in the game.
I'm a bit partial to the baseball stadium theme, but this is a good choice too. There's not really a wrong choice.
There really isn't.
I know a number of people would be your fans.
Don't worry, there's another wave. So are you going to do the setup?
He usually does from what I've seen, but
Yeah,
it'll.
okay, it'll kind of depend. So there's a really weird thing about this game. If there's 6 knives on the ground, then the game kind of has you get to the game's object limit.
Yeah, there's only 6 spaces it can use to.
Yeah.
Nice, beautiful.
Oh,
There's only
good
6
setup.
spaces that can use for items at all.
So he's taking advantage of the fact that Soya, the knife thrower guy, gets up faster than the fat guys and just atomic drops right onto them. And
I think
takes,
this is 6, right?
Yeah, that's sick. There's 4 there, 1 on the left and 1 on the
Okay.
right.
Oh yeah, there's one on the left. Okay.
So
Yeah, you're good.
So since there's 6 objects on the ground, there can't be any more objects spawned. And this next set of bosses, because, yeah, but most of their attacks are considered to be an object. So they're just kind of being nice and staying over on the left. This line's a pretty specific manipulation too.
All right,
yeah,
here
here
I
you
go.
go.
Yep, you got it.
You're just going to see him constantly do that, and it will not hit.
Or sometimes
Yeah.
they'll duck down and shoot. They'll try and shoot a laser, but they
It
can't.
won't appear because
Yeah,
got
they
him right
can't.
in the
There's too
object
much
limit.
stuff. Yeah, so
He's got him right
makes
where he
this.
wants
It turns this fight, which I mean, this fight can go really well. Even on Mania, you can sit on this line, and a lot of
Yeah.
times they'll just all jump over to the left, and you'll just do this. But sometimes, if they don't want to play game or they don't want to play ball, then it'll
Very
save your
nice.
life.
That was good.
Nice job. All right.
And he was standing slightly to the right so he doesn't get hit by the explosion, because that's the only part that can hit him.
Yeah, those bosses blow up when they.
Yeah,
By the way, here's that boss again.
Yeah.
In case you missed what that sprite was. It's like,
And now this time he will hit you because we haven't hit the object limit.
yeah. They also have a rather nasty counterattack if you try and throw them, where you have 1 frame on Mania, and then they'll just electrocute you instead of you getting a throw. Wants to be real careful not to go too much further right now.
Because we mentioned how there are bosses that we're going to revisit and see again. Well, there's another one at the end here, and one of the worst ones you can see. Here he is.
Here, our Bear 2, which,
Bear Jr.
yeah, Bear 1 was rocking the red, so this guy becomes Luigi since he's got the green.
He's avenging his brother Mario. Like most bosses that reappear, he actually doesn't have invincibility on Get Up. So you can kind of quote unquote pipe loop him, except you will get to the end of the screen eventually.
Another thing to mention about Bear is that most bosses behave normally when hit, but Bear is one of the bosses that suffers less hit stun. So even just basic attack strings don't always work on him because of that. A lot of times they'll just punch you right back for trying it. But that was
Really
the way
well
to take care of
handled.
him. So this elevator, this is the last elevator. There's a lot of stuff that happens here and a lot of boss refights. He does get health refills. There's no like drop, but every time the elevator starts moving up, he'll get a pretty good chunk of health back.
Basically the equivalent of an apple. And did you miss the loop?
Nope, I got it.
Because it's back again. Hooray! So this is probably the worst wave because unlike most of the bosses that reappear, Zamza always has invincibility on Wake Up, and while you can bait him, it's really hard to bait him when you have a Zamza, all these enemies, and eventually another whip will appear once, the enemies die. So you can't really set up any AI loops on him until you get rid of all the other enemies.
Yeah, that's it. He's just kind of jumping wherever instead of being a problem. So it's giving Anthro a good chance to clear out some of the enemies before attacking him. Sometimes he'll just go at you, and you really get cut off from any options.
Not that the enemies are clear, he can now just completely light this guy up.
Unless I mess up. Okay.
Nice. So this is where the ultimate warrior, I mean Z Kusano, appears. And while you can throw him on wake up, if you don't do it fast enough, he will break out.
Yeah. Abadeda in both forms also does have a counterattack. So if you just punch him, then typically he'll end up doing that counterattack and nailing you. But got control of the screen, so now we're gonna suplex him into the wall too.
Yep. Would you say that was more perfect than your stage 4 fight?
I mean, it would have been nice getting a no death 8 elevator, but it was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, no death 8 elevator. That's it's disgusting, honestly. I don't know a better word for it.
Yeah, so Anthopants is such a crazy man that he's actually attempted no death attempts of this game, and he's actually gotten up to stage 8.
Okay, so this is a pretty consistent Shiva strategy. Shiva has a lot of invincibility when standing up, but like there you can see he only took 1 hit from that Thunder Tackle because sometimes he just has more invincibility than other times. So there's not like a set amount to delay, and yeah, this fight is Shiva's okay if you manipulate him, but man, if you try and fight him honestly, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah. So now he's doing a safer strat where he baits him from far away, or just does that.
Okay. Now we've got Mr. X, who, as many people know, decides he wants to use a gun.
Yep.
And Mr. X does have some invincibility when the fight starts, so that's why I had to make him miss that attack. Wow.
Wow.
Oh, man. Yes. I mean, there's just a lot of enemies coming at you in this part, and on Mania, they're not going to wait. They're going to swing.
And they just keep on respawning. And
Wow.
wow, that was a really good fight.
Super fast. Holy cow.
Time's coming up.
Yeah, time's coming up really soon.
It's a little late compared to what you might expect.
Time.
That time is really close to world record.
That's
It's like less than 10 seconds.
That's a super good time.
That is a super good time.
Yeah. No, like, yeah. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'm very impressed too. So what's really funny is that I was checking in Anthopants to this marathon. He said, "I'm going to get world record this marathon." So you were close, you know.
Yeah, I got really close.
I'll respect that. So, and you know, I was like, you know, you don't have to get world record.
But yeah, I was running it on world record pace pretty much the whole time, which is really dangerous. So I'm glad I didn't get a game over.
Yeah, that was a really good run.
Yeah.
1 CC.
Yeah, exactly. With the 1 CC.
But yeah, that's Streets of Rage 2. Thank you to my couch. Thank you to everybody who donated. And thank you to Games Done Quick for having me.
And thanks for the run.
Yeah, thanks for the run. Woo!
All right. One more time, one big hand to everyone who ran the beat 'em up block and making these games look extremely easy because none of them are. So we've got a couple donations on backlog here. We have $50 from Anonymous that says, Streets of Rage 2 is by far my favorite game. End scene song still chokes me up. We also have $50 from Donovan the Little Jerk that says, Hi, Antho, and thank you for getting me into Streets of Rage 2 speedrunning. The other week I got my first 1 credit mania, and I owe it all to you. Hit the guys, save the people overseas, and Godspeed. We have $200 from MVO, who says, "Thank you to everyone that have made this event possible. GDQs are part of the best weeks of the year for me. Love from France. You are all amazing people." We have $75 from Dark Gizmo, who says, "Love the event. As a game programmer myself, I love seeing games being broken and trying to imagine what is happening in the background for such things to occur." All right, before the Mega Man block starts off, we're going to kick it over to an interview for Mega Man 8 by Darkman, Orsa, and Clear Tonic.
We're good? Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Summer Games Done Quick 2018. My name is Darkman, and I'm here to kind of kick off our Rockman block, our Mega Man block. So we're going to be starting with Rockman No Constancy, but a little bit later we're going to be having a Mega Man 8 race, and I have the two runners of that race. We have Clear Tonic, Orsa. Fellas, welcome. Happy to have you here.
Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's kind of get into it with this race going on. So Mega Man 8, it's not really a game that we've seen a whole lot of at GDQs before. Last time we've seen it was at SGDQ 2016. So what are we going to expect out of this?
Yeah, I think, Mega Man 8 is definitely its own breed. It has kind of a different engine compared to many other games. Rockman Forte has a similar engine to Mega Man 8, but it's definitely its own beast. It has kind of like unique weapons that you don't really see compared to some of the other entries, and it's one of the longer titles for sure. There's basically every stage has two parts to it, so yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of quirky things like using Rush Bike, and we'll see tech that's interesting like ball jumps and interesting use of the weapons. So it's like it's really cool and something that's quite unique compared to the rest of the series.
For sure, yeah. I love Mega Man 8's weapons more than anything. I think they're the best part of the game. Being able to combine them to use platforming and defeating enemies is the coolest part, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome. So, and now specifically, this is a race. I mean, you guys are pretty close friends, I'd say. You guys have kind of gone back a while. How does that kind of affect your mentality going into the race? Obviously, I would imagine both of you want to win, but at the same time, you don't want your friend to stumble. So, like, how does that factor into the race?
Yeah, I think we've been part of the same community for a long time, and we both are clearly capable and respect each other, but also have like a competitive slight to it, and then we want to both just put on a good show and a good race. So I think we're here to win, but at the same point we're just capable of what we understand what each other is capable of. So it's just guns blazing. Hopefully it goes well.
For sure. More than anything, I just hope the race is close. Yeah. Which, knowing Mega Man 8, it probably will be. Yeah.
That's cool. So yeah, with Mega Man 8, it's definitely one of the longer classic Mega Mans. Of course, when we say classic Mega Man, we're talking about Mega Man 1 through 10. It's probably the longest one. So with it being close to an hour, how does that kind of affect your preparation? How does it affect your mentality going into it? With games like classic Mega Man games being really tight precision focused tricks.
So I think Mega Man 8 is actually a really, really good marathon game because it sort of warms up really gradually. Like the first couple stages, there's some auto scrollers to sort of ease you in, and then the movement really picks up later on. So I think it's not the worst game for a marathon. There's nothing crazy in the first or second stage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not 55 minutes of constant, playing the game at a super high level. It definitely has a nice slope to it. But near the end, you have a lot to worry about in terms of managing your weapon and your HP and make sure that you're actually safe and you're not going to blow things up. So yeah. It feels natural. It's good.
Okay. All right. So we got some hard-hitting social media questions that we got on Twitter. So I hope you guys are ready for this.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So first question from one Princess Proto says, "What's the most useful special weapon besides the Mega Ball?"
My vote's going to go for Ice Wave. It's very, very good about clearing. So Ice Wave is the move that you use, and it basically travels along the bottom and clears out most of what's in front of you. And it's has a ton of damage potential because it can hit an enemy multiple times. It's larger. So.
Yeah, Ice Wave is really good. I'll take Flash Bomb. I think Flash Bomb is super useful. It's a high damage weapon, and it also leaves a lingering hitbox. So it's really good for clearing enemies with a lot of health because it'll just keep hitting them over and over and over again.
Oh yeah.
Cool. All right, okay, here we go. From Vegeta Reese. Orsa, Clear Tonic, what did Bugs Bunny hit Elmer Fudd with for him to be able to invent Mega Man?
Well, this is probably a reference to the voice acting. We're playing on the Japanese version today, so the voice acting is just flawless, no problems.
Yep.
Nothing?
I have no idea.
Okay, good answer. All right, so we have from at Blake Rosser, probably my favorite social media question of all time. Orsa, Clear Tonic, what is Mega Man's favorite condiment to enjoy with chicken tenders?
Ranch dressing.
Ranch dressing with a nice slice of beet meat should be good. The bird?
Yeah.
That's really rude. All right, so that's going to do it for our social media questions. Thank you very much. I have one final question. You guys may be friends, but we're throwing the lines down. Orsa, why are you going to put Mr. Tonic over here in the dumpster?
The dumpster.
I'm not. He's winning.
Oh. All right, Tonic, why are you winning?
He's winning.
All right, well then I guess there you have it. They each think the other person's winning. There you go. So that's going to do it for our interview. Thank you very much, guys. Clear Tonic, Orsa, they are the Mega Man 8 runners. But first, before we go anywhere, we have some lovely prizes. Unfortunately, Sent is being occupied by Chompy. Chompy is feeling sick right now, so he's taking care of him. So I'm going to go ahead and show off some of the cool prizes that we have here. So starting off, we have this lovely statue. Look at this, a wonderful handmade statue you can see right here. It's pretty cool. This is custom made. You can see kind of like the transition from rock to Mega Man. Pretty awesome if I do say so myself. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome
cool.
statue.
So this is awesome. $40 donation gets you a chance to win this, and this is going on until the TaskBot block. So you got a long time to win this. I would definitely get a donation in for that. If that's not your cup of tea, we do got some other stuff. Tonic, what do we got? Yeah, look at this brilliant acrylic paint in the year 2000X, excuse me. So that's really awesome painting. So that one is open until Goof Troop. So that was graciously given to us by Studio Pen. So thank you very much. So yeah, those are some of the prizes you can win during the Mega Man block. But you can of course go to gamesdonequick.com to see what else you can win. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for us. Once again, Tonic, Orsa, thank you very much for taking some time to answer a few questions, and we'll be looking forward to Rockman 8. But before that, we're going to go ahead and throw it over to the host as we get ready for Rockman No Constancy.
Hello, Summer Game.